Check, check, check. Okay, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Progress Report. Oh, look who just showed up. Anna Slatz did tell me, give me a sec here, that she's going to be running a little bit late. She'll be here hopefully soon. She said she's just on her way home right now. She had got called into a meeting, so she'll be here soon, I hope. And then we have Radfem Hitler here, who you may know from Twitter famous, Twitter infamous, depending who you're asking. How's it going?
It's going well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I'm excited. I want to ask you, like, how do people usually address you in these types of conversations? They just say RFH or Radfem Hitler, or is there some other name
They
you
usually
go?
say RFH, yeah,
Okay,
typically, or just Radfem. That seems to be the two.
gotcha. Something I find interesting about you is that you're kind of polarizing figure on Twitter, but not necessarily along ideological lines as much. Like there are people I know who are, I would consider, very politically aligned, culturally, morally with my views, and they hate you. And then there's other people like Rebecca, blonde, who loves you. And I've always been a fan. I've always thought you bring something kind of unique to the table, and I appreciate your input.
I didn't
But
know that. That's really funny to hear.
yeah,
But yeah, you're right. It is weird how it's there's a big divide in it seems who kind of finds me at least like funny and who gets really upset. And they'll often be people of the same politics, but maybe it's like a personality thing that decides it. It's kind of funny.
yeah, stylistic thing. I don't know exactly. It's an
Yeah.
interesting question. Um, anyway, as I said, Anna should be here soon. I'll wait till she gets here to do like her formal introduction. But uh, the way this show works is I just have a bunch of video clips for us to watch. If you want to jump in, you can start talking. I'll pause it, or I'll pause it at the end of the clip, and we'll have a chance to give our 2 cents if we have it. As for super chats, if anyone wants to send super chats, we'll do those at the end of the show. It's not gonna be a super long one. I think we'll be done in like an hour. I have not quite as many clips as I usually do, but anyway, I wanted to start off with something just to like set the mood here. So I got this one.
They, them, energy. They, them, energy. They, them, energy. They, them, energy.
What are you even gonna say about it? I mean, it's it speaks for itself, really. It's
I
all right.
kind of love her though.
Yeah, you're into it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have they them energy and I don't approve of they them pronouns, but something about that was like I don't know. I kind of she's got some big dick energy actually. It's kind of funny.
Okay. I'll take it. I don't have, I mean, it's, it is what it is. I don't know. I'm not even gonna even try to unpack that
I
one,
really
but
want to know what that was from. Like it's like a concert from
yeah,
where?
it's gotta be some kind of like, it's gotta be some kind of like festival, some kind of pride type thing, I would imagine, but I couldn't actually tell you.
Interesting.
They, them, energy. They, them, energy.
Or maybe that's just how drum and bass is now. I don't know. I've been out of the rave scene for a while, so I don't know what they're up to these days.
Oh, are
Let's.
you a raver?
I was, yeah, I was like 15 years ago, give or take. Yeah, for a couple
That's
years.
really funny. I had no idea.
Yeah, I've had a lot of phases. My life story is a kind of checkered thing, but we don't need to get into all that.
I've had a lot of faces too.
One, two, three, collecting minutes. Oh fuck! Oh fuck! Oh no 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 no!
So that is, of course, the Delta plane crash in Toronto, Canada from last week. There was a lot of stuff about all female crews going around, and Delta like advertising that, or whatever the company. It's like a company that's owned by Delta or something like that. And then that ended up not being true. I believe it was, well, actually, it was a female co-pilot from what I saw in
Yeah.
the media, but the main pilot was a man.
Yeah, it was a female what first officer, like yeah, the one that's not the main pilot. I just can't think of the terms, but like the second in command.
Yeah,
But
I think it
the
might be
yeah.
first officer or something like that. I'm not totally
Yeah.
sure either. But putting aside, social media misinformation. Oh, I just like Googled it, and there's like a new one. Delta flight makes emergency landing after possible smoke. So, the wider story here is that there seems to be more plane disasters than we used to have. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really want to know like what exactly is supposed to be causing this because now it just seems to be like all the landings are getting fucked up, and I don't know why that would all be happening now, kind of all at once. It is really bizarre. It's just like I don't know, something to do with the planets, or if it's just like literally just a big coincidence. I don't fucking know, but it is starting to really freak people out. Um, yeah, in this case, I don't think it was like a DI thing, just because it generally she was just like the first officer, but um, it is really
Yeah,
freaky. I don't
they,
know.
they never really explain like I'm just gonna pop it into Google right now because it's been like
Yeah,
they've had
they
a
didn't
week.
explain it. They just I guess they said there
Like
was
how
just like crazy crosswinds or something, and so the plane like the landing got fucked up, but I don't understand because it seems that that probably happens a lot where there's really bad crosswinds.
Yeah,
So
and aren't they so like like that's just horrifying to me, like, oh, the weather was a bit windy. Like that's all it
yeah,
takes. I was
yeah,
saying
right?
if I was on that plane, I would have been like shitting myself going through that. That's like my worst nightmare. Okay, I do have
Well,
an
you think
update on Anna. She's having a hard time getting in, and so I'm gonna text her the link, and hopefully that works.
okay?
So why don't you go ahead if you have anything else
LP's
to add?
discarded crack pipe sent
Yeah, I
$5. It's
mean,
okay, LP.
you'd
I
think
know
that
you
like
still think
pilot's
about
already
me and our
trained
little
for like a
MDMA. You know he's
crosswind.
about
I
to
don't
start high
understand
school, right?
why
He
now all
asks
these
about you.
issues are coming up. And I think a lot of people are scrambling for answers. And so conservatives want to say DEI, and then the left saying, well, it's actually because you removed DEI, because now it's happening like right after Trump came into office and all this shit. But I don't know. It's probably like neither of those things. There's just something in the air.
Yeah, you want to know my theory? It's like a, not to sound like a social justice warrior or whatever, but it's like a
Mm.
systemic thing. And people, I think the best term that people have come up with to describe this is the competency crisis. And so it's at the engineer or the manufacturing level where they build the planes. It's the pilots and the crews. There is DIEI there. It's the air traffic controllers. It's like all of these things have just gotten a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And it's almost just like the fabric of man, how the hell do you send a WhatsApp message? Hold on. New
She's WhatsApp? I always message her on Signal.
well, she said Signal or WhatsApp, and I
Okay.
don't have Signal, but I only like use WhatsApp to talk to my Ask Meta. What the fuck? I'm pressing like the new message, but then it doesn't let me put in a number. What the? Oh my god. iMessage. What is? Oh, that's Apple. I don't have an Apple either. Maybe you can help, RFH. Maybe you can send her the URL that I gave you
Yeah.
on Signal.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Wait, the one you just sent me in Twitter DMs?
Yeah, exact same one that you used. Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
boomering it
Yeah.
up over here.
I'll be right back.
Boomer moment. Yeah. And by the way, while we're waiting for that, let me just address the super chat thing that came in. That those alerts were not supposed to be on. I used to have them on because I had figured out a way for the guests to hear those text to speeches while they were happening, and then somehow it stopped working, and I just haven't had a chance to go back in and try to figure out what's going on. So I turned off those on-screen alerts there, but I do appreciate the super chat, and we'll read them or look at them at the end of the show, like I said.
Okay, I just sent it to Anna. Wait, let me make sure that's sent actually. Let me see. Yes, okay, I just sent it to her. Okay, I'm back. Wait, are you from Canada?
I grew up in Canada. Yeah, I live in America now, but I grew up in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I keep hearing an accent. So I was like, wait, are you Canadian? It's always so funny to like realize people are Canadian.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Anna too.
Oh
Also
yeah,
Canadian.
there's a
I'll look
lot.
it up.
There's a lot of Canadians who are kind of, you know, radical in one way or another. It's a funny thing. Something about that super polite society that just pushes people more to the extremes. Anyway, let's see what other video I got here to look at. Oh, here we go. Okay, so all right. Anna, can you
Retard
hear us?
who
Can we
was
hear you?
late.
Look, I'm penalizing myself. I'm so fucking sorry. I did not mean. I literally tried to make sure I had nothing going on at this time because I was just like, oh, I don't want to like have to turn him down again because you had previously very kindly invited me and I had not been able to do it because I was stuck in meetings. And then sure enough, even though I didn't have a meeting scheduled, something came up the last second that I absolutely had to deal with. So I'm so sorry.
No worries at all. You're here now. I got through the tech issues and all that. And let me just do a little formal introduction now that you're here. Anna Slatz, for anybody who doesn't know, is a investigative journalist. She is the co-founder and or founder of Redux Magazine, which covers a lot of gender stuff, trans stuff. If you've been watching my channel for more than 5 minutes, you've probably seen me go over some of the stories because they do really good work over there. She's also kind of a Twitter legend, just a good poster. So I'm happy to have you guys
really
here.
Think I'm a good poster?
Yeah, definitely. So we got the Radfem episode here, and I do have some clips for us to get into. So let's see. We just got through with the Delta crash. Let's see what we got next here.
My child was ultimately taken from me as the clinic had implanted into my womb the embryo from a stranger. I've never felt so violated, and this situation has left me emotionally and physically broken. It has affected every aspect of my life in some way, and words cannot describe the continued destruction that it has on my life. I spent my entire life wanting to be a mom. I loved, nurtured, and grew my child, and I would have done literally anything in my power to keep him. My baby is not genetically mine. He doesn't have my blood. He doesn't have my eyes, but he is and will always be my son.
That we need better.
Okay. So the story there is she did IVF and they put the wrong embryo in her, and the baby came out black, and then it turned out wasn't genetically hers at all. So really an IVF horror story, almost like unimaginable what that would be like to go through that. I've heard other horror stories like this too, where it's like there was that one doctor who was putting his own sperm in, and again, like secretly. And this has been like, people have been talking a little bit more about IVF the last week or so, because there was a lot of speculation about Elon Musk and his kids. From what I understand, that ended up not being an IVF thing. But yeah, what do you guys think about this story and IVF in general?
I mean, I think it really just goes to show you kind of how sick surrogacy is, because like this woman, like that baby doesn't look anything like her, right? And she's still like, no, that's my baby 100% because, you know, she carried it and birthed it. And I think it really just illustrates how sick it is that it just really like adds a context to when you see like those pictures of like you know, like two gay guys and they're like holding this baby that they just took from the mom and they're like always in the bed for some reason as if they like just gave birth.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it just makes, I don't know, to me it like really illustrated how kind of sick that is, because women really do bond with the baby while they're carrying it, even if it's not quote theirs.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what I had been thinking about when I had heard about this story, was exactly that. Because a lot of people on Twitter, X, whatever, they were really going after her because a lot of people were circulating this completely false information that the reason why she
Yeah.
was suing the clinic was because she was angry the baby was black and trying to paint her out as being like a racist or something like this. You
Hmm.
know, racist Karen, angry she gave birth to black baby, whatever. When in reality it was because she was incredibly depressed. Because first of all, the realization of that fuck up is a huge like burden in and of itself. But
Right.
then to have bonded with this baby for 9 months while she was carrying it, gave birth to it, bonded afterwards for I don't know how many months it was afterwards that she was taking care of this kid, only to have him taken away. Like, this woman is completely traumatized and she has every right to sue the clinic. And yeah, but I'd been thinking about the surrogacy thing too, because I was just like, if she's this distraught over having carried and given birth to a baby that she's not genetically related to in any kind of way, I mean, that sort of mirrors what we've heard from surrogates about surrogates who regret being a surrogate, that
Mm.
they actually connected with this child and then to lose it was a very traumatic experience. So I just think that sort of lays waste to the entire surrogacy argument that, oh no, they don't get attached to it, it's perfectly fine. Surely it has to have some psychological connotations for the mother,
Yeah, I didn't
the
know about
actual
the
mother.
racism angle, and now I'm kind of curious. Like, I don't know if that guy she's with in the video is her lawyer or her husband or what. I don't know if you got if you know this, Anna, but it's like, wouldn't she like know who the father was supposed to be? And like, and then like if it comes out like a different race than you
Right.
expected, like that, like that's weird, you know, like that's kind of a colossal fuck up. This is why like another thing this makes me think about is how like I've seen some tweets like from Andrew Tate type people who say like men shouldn't be there when their wives are giving birth in the hospital and stuff like that. I don't personally agree with that, and I think one of a man's jobs is to like have a rotating shift where you're making sure they're not like swapping out your baby, you know? I know that's like less common than it used to be, but it's still something you should be worried about, especially when you see stories like this.
Yeah, no, definitely. Andrew Tate, nothing he says really matters. I know you have consistently pointed out. I even remember a tweet that you had posted where it was like that Game of Thrones meme where he was like reading out, all of the names of the former crown winners, and you had replaced it with like all the names of all of these red pill influencers who aren't married. It was just like Andrew Tate, unmarried. And that's what it comes down to. This guy, nothing he says should be taken seriously. He is a faggot. Like, if not like in body a faggot, most certainly in spirit he's a faggot. Because what father wouldn't want to be there for the birth of their child? What father wouldn't want to be there to be a support system for his wife who's giving birth? Like, that doesn't make any sense. He's just grossed out by vaginas is what I think it is, because again, he is a
A
faggot.
hundred
He would
percent.
much
Oh
he
my
would much
gosh.
prefer, and he's even said it, he would much prefer some feminine lady boy. Don't you have you seen that clip
Yes.
where he was
Yeah.
talking about, oh, trans women, they're so
Oh
much more
yeah.
feminine? Go ahead, go suck that dick, have fun, stay away from women, stop trafficking them at the very least.
Oh, okay. All
Oh
right,
wait,
let's
I'm so sorry, I forgot to ask if I was like allowed to swear and stuff. I'm sorry.
try to keep the slurs on the
Okay.
down low.
I'm
We
so
are on
sorry.
YouTube. Keep those to a bare minimum if you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I should have asked.
My baby is not genetically mine. He doesn't have my blood.
We need better data to create better clinical guidelines for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex people. My research was terminated as a result of the president's executive orders, presumably the quote-unquote defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth. Despite this rhetoric, nothing in this order defends women. What this administration does best is to call something the opposite of what it is and repeat it over and over again until we're confused about words even mean or what is true. This is the oldest totalitarian tactic in existence.
That the Substack that Andrea.
Okay. So a little bit of context there. This, I guess, Summer Harvey, this woman, she got laid off from like Doge cuts, and she was doing something with the effects of gender on cancer research, like treatments for they thems versus normal people or something like
Wait,
that.
what?
Yeah, I kind of like the original clip's a lot longer. I trimmed it down for the sake of time, but that's basically what she talks about, how like her job was like collecting people's gender identities and like working on better ways to collect gender identity. And now that we're back to a two-sex system, I guess her job's not really needed anymore. So that's kind of what she's drumming it up as like this, like, oh, you're anti-cancer research because it was peripherally connected to that in some way. But
how the fuck would cancer research be affected by like your fake pronoun?
I couldn't tell you. It's not my wheelhouse.
I'm
I can
so
understand
confused.
sex having an effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like your biological
I could
sex
see
would.
it from like the perspective of, say, like, is there any existing research? I'd be curious actually on whether or not the cross-sex hormones have any sort of a effect on maybe chemotherapy or something like that. Like that I could certainly understand, because we've actually seen this happen now multiple times where, and I understand some people say it's more or less a FAFO situation, but still, I think that speaks to how incredibly experimental these drugs are, that we don't really have the full extent of how they actually impact, how do they cross impact with other potential treatments that somebody could be getting. So say you have a woman who's on testosterone, now she's getting chemotherapy or she's getting other drugs associated with her cancer treatment. I wonder if there's going to be any sort of, cross connection there that could negatively impact her. That I could certainly understand. And if we don't have any research on that, again, that speaks to how incredibly experimental these drugs are, that we don't even really know the full extent for how they're impacting people. But it doesn't really sound, just by the way she's phrased it, how she's phrased it as being like a very ideological thing. It's very likely that she was probably one of those people who was doing research on, how you feel when you have to check female or male on the hospital sheet, because some hospitals are doing that now, where they're like, okay, what do you want to be referred to? That's fine, but what were you born as? Like, they actually need to know this information because it actually impacts what they're going to treat you for, how they're going to treat you. Like, there have been a couple of cases, for example, with females who identify as transgender, who are on testosterone, going to hospital claiming to be male, and then having miscarriages or having, going into premature labor because they didn't even know that they were pregnant. And the hospital didn't check if this person was pregnant because this person said that she was a man, right? So that has happened, but it sounds more like Summer Harvey was looking at some gender bullshit and probably should have lost her job. So, I did it again. I'm so sorry. I really do swear like this in real life. Like, I'm a sailor.
You can swear as much as you want. It's just the
slurs
are a little bit.
That's what YouTube, I guess, gets mad about.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
You're so right what you said about like the researching the feelings and that. Years ago I had this debate with Vosh, and we got onto the topic of women in sports, trans women in sports, and he like gave me the studies, like this meta-analysis found they had no competitive advantage, and I was like, come on, you can't really believe. Anyway, I went through it afterwards, and it was like I'm looking at the studies, and it's like sample size 1. And then it's like, and then you look at what they did, and they're like, we asked this trans woman who wants to play hockey, like what it feels like not being able to play with the women. And like, that's the study, and you're like, what is this? But I don't know if you guys caught it in this clip. She also talked about how like we're subverting language and changing language. And that was so surreal. Like, is this the pendulum swinging back? Is this how it's going to be now? They're going to accuse the right-wing people of changing language, because I think it was something about like the protecting women and girls in sports after that. And she's like, that's not what those words mean, kind of thing. You can't do that. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's I feel like they've kind of always done that. Like both sides kind of lobby that accusation a lot because ultimately, like everyone kind of wants to own the language because if you own words and you own the language, you really like own the discourse in many ways. So that's why there's been such a fight to um like obsess about pronouns and using the right pronouns and shit and like acting like that stuff is real when it's very much not. So we're just gonna keep having this back and forth. Like, no, you're subverting language. No, actually, it's you because fundamentally, like, we really just live in different realities and we don't agree on these terms whatsoever. And that's why it's like, I think that's why it's so hard to even reach any sort of agreement or common ground about anything. It really is just two sets of people living in a completely different world.
Yeah, Judith Butler and her consequences, basically. That's ultimately what it boils down to, is the construction of reality through language,
Yeah.
which all originated from, you know, her and also Foucault. And so that's where it's always going to be. People are always going to huddle around the language of things, and they're going to debate about the meanings of different terms. And ultimately, what it comes down to is certain things are just objective material fact, and you can't change that. And it doesn't really matter what you say or how you call it. It is what it is. And this is what the entire sex discussion, debate,
Right.
discourse, whatever you want to call it, boils down to.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else we got here.
Or what is true. This is the oldest totalitarian tactic in existence.
That the Substack that Andrea wrote was so unbelievably unhinged that the only possible way I would have agreed to settle anything would have been she had to retract like 80% of that. But the issue is that I don't know if there's any world where she ever would have been willing to, because it makes her look so bad. But I think the issue is that she maneuvered herself into like a totally unfuckable position where like the situation was just so screwed up that she's looking for me to try to settle something, but she's already inflicted maximum possible damage on me.
All right, I did neglect to tell you guys that I had Destiny on the docket, but this is a story that's been like going for weeks, if not months, basically ever since the leaks came out, the sex tapes and all, whatever. And now he's getting sued for sharing non-consensual. He's talking about how she wants him to settle, but like it's not fair because she's already ruined his reputation or whatever. I don't know what. I hate Destiny. I'll just say it. I fucking hate this dude. What do you guys have any thoughts on it?
Anna, I'm so curious about your thoughts on Destiny in general. I feel like I've never heard you talk about him.
He just kind of represents everything that I hate. Like you could sum it up as like, and it's funny because we kind of have like reverse stories. Like he was raised Christian conservative and then went on to become just a total degenerate. And for me, it was the exact opposite. So I might like to describe my views in like really quickly. It's just Christian conservative basically. And so everything about Destiny, the way he lives his life, the fact that he's got such a big following, he's a role model, whether he wants to be or not. But the example he sets is like disastrous, and he's kind of like sociopathic or something, to where it's like he can, his wife. Most people, your wife leaving you would be like devastating, but for Destiny, it was like, I don't know, maybe he took a day off work and then just went right back. And so he's not normal, you know what I mean? And so I worry about people looking at him and thinking this guy's got the formula for life figured out, when he's really such like a freak that it's not going to work out for you if you try to do this, It's not even working out for him, but
there is like a weird sociopathic like element to him. Like there's something is just very not normal there. And I don't know how people can sometimes he's obviously like he's intelligent and sometimes he can be like very on point about certain things, but I don't know, like I think when you just like look at his character in general and just all these constant scandals around him, and also like when you just see his like weird freak alien body that just looks like I don't know. It's like a gray alien or something, like from the future. It's like what people are gonna look like in like 1,000 years of like
They're
seed
one of those
oils.
National Geographic.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is what the average human will look like after
Right.
500 more years of seed oils and polyamory.
Yeah, and like fluorescent lighting. Like that's what it reminds me of. And I'm like, how can you see that and think, yeah, I should be listening to this person? Like I think that that's like all you need to know about Destiny is like that photo of him on the beach looking like that.
Yeah. I mean, the crazy thing is he is quite the ladies man, you know, say what you want, but you can't really deny that women, there's something about them that they love. Is it just the money? Like as women, what are your thoughts on that aspect of his phenomenon?
I think if you're like a freakish guy and you freak max, there's always going to be like freaky girls that kind of obsess over you.
Yeah.
Like that's a successful route of reproducing. It just is.
Yeah, and not only that,
Destiny
but I think it's also
Are we
sort of
gonna
the
make
entire
it?
group that he runs within, because I mean, shitlib women are very, very starved for choice in terms of like not really having very many options of. I mean, this is the reason why they continue to talk about Hassan. Hassan is the only one that ever
Right.
they can ever bring up as being like a masculine sort of attractive, maybe depending on who you are. Not to me, but I've heard many other people say this of an attractive male. They constantly have to keep pointing back to Hassan because he's sort of the only conventionally attractive one that they have. But I do think that it ultimately comes down to like a political thing. Like, you know, if you run in his group and you share his politics as a woman, then I feel like it just sort of proves that women are extremely vibes based when it comes to trying to find a partner. And, you know, he might be funny and, oh, he says the right things, and politically, you know, he's got the right views. And therefore, I would consider him to be a potential partner. Not me. I'm just using general speech again. But I just consider him to be one of those douchey leftist streamers who people mistake how fast they talk for intelligence. They just talk fast, so people assume that they know what they're talking about. Vaush or Vosh, I don't really know how to pronounce his
Vosh
handle. Vosh, okay.
Yeah.
Vosh is another one of those people. Ayala, the e-prostitute, she's another one. Ayla?
Yeah,
Ayala? I don't know.
I would have said Ayala too. Yeah. Okay.
I just think that they're all belonging to that school of talk fast, and people will assume that we know what we're talking about. When in reality, if you just slowed them down for a second and you just started positing questions to what is actually flowing out of their mouth like diarrhea, you'll very quickly encounter somebody who doesn't really know what they're talking about all that much, or will get flustered extremely quickly. And with respect to the whole lawsuit that's going on, it's a civil suit, right? Like,
yes.
Okay. Like he hasn't been criminally charged with anything?
Not to my knowledge, no. There was reports that that one other girl, Cherry, whatever her name is, she was gonna go to the police, but I never heard of anything coming out of that.
Okay. Well, I'm curious, because you had said that he was making the claim that his career had been he's basically arguing that his career has been irreparably damaged by these allegations. And I'm curious to see where he's actually getting that, because I mean, these people, like his fans, don't seem to care. Like same with that video where he was sucking pee. Like they just didn't. I liked how that entire video happened. Like whole leaks happening of him sucking pee and just continued about his day. Like no one.
I mean, in a way, that one's not even as bad, because these people don't care about if you're gay or whatever, but they do pretend to care about ethics and consent. And so, in fact, they kind of base their whole morality around those things. So the fact that they do just let this kind of thing slide, I think is telling. But, you know, it's probably, I'm not going to say conservatives are like immune to that either, where you overlook whatever it may, you know, Donald Trump cheating on his wife with a porn star, for example, or whatever.
Right.
Like, in politics are messy and not perfect. Whether or not being a streamer grants you that same pass is debatable, but I could see that being
I don't think
the way
so,
people look
personally.
at it. I want to
I
ask
don't
you.
know. I feel like it is something that, and sorry, I'll just say this because I now Hassan is in my brain, but like there have been accusations against him as well with respect to like him visiting that brothel in Berlin,
Yes.
Artemis, which is one of the largest commercial brothels in the world, and like legal licensed commercial brothels, and then Artemis getting raided not too long after for child sex trafficking, and just no one, like whenever that's brought up, just none of his fans seem to care. Nobody on the left seems to care. I do feel like it's just it becomes sort of, at some point you have to say that politics is protection for predators, because so long as you have the right politics, your group will never blame you for anything. That goes on both sides. I mean, it really
Yes.
does go on both sides. The wagons will always circle, but I do find that it's particularly egregious on the left, simply because you have all of these people who, like you were saying, pretend to care about ethics, pretend to care about women, pretend to care about, feminism or equality or hating, sexual assault or anything like this. And then when those values are actually challenged in like a real time example, there's just nothing. No, everything is just blank. No one is saying a word. No one cares to say anything. And yeah, that's always interesting about it, because at least the other side doesn't really have the pretense of giving a shit. Like the
Yeah,
other side doesn't have
it's
a pretense of really caring about consent or something like that and making it the central focal point of the entire ideology. These people do, and yet they still don't care. So
And that kind of ties into what I wanted to ask you, which is, you said women are vibes based, and do you think, I try to get into dating stuff a little bit because the dating market is so messed up. But I know, like RFH, you talk about this type of stuff on your Twitter, like sexual
yeah.
dynamics and all that. Is being outspoken politically, do you guys think it is a good strategy to finding a partner? Because honestly, I think it is personally. But I want to hear your thoughts on that.
I think it's one of those situations. Sorry, my sauna's going off. Okay, it's done. Sorry. I think it's one of those situations where, what is it? The odds are good, but the goods are odd. Like you can absolutely increase your like the amount of women, I guess, that will be interested in you, but often a lot of people who are like very involved in politics are a little deranged. So you do increase your options, like numbers wise, but a lot of these people are going to have like cluster B personality disorders, frankly. So you have to be careful.
Yeah. What do you have? Like, do you have a better, like, do you have any advice for guys who are trying to meet women, or any kind of thoughts on that?
I mean, I do still think that like Twitter is a great place to meet like-minded people. Um, because at the end of the day, like, yeah, you can meet more quote normal people off of like a dating app in your town, but your likelihood of like finding like a real connection, it's going to be significantly lower if you like really are like a politically kind of minded person and like you really like care about, I don't know, like philosophy and ideas and something besides like Netflix, right?
Yeah, this
So
is what I'm saying. I've seen lots of
yeah,
people get married off of Twitter.
yeah,
It's
I
a
do too. So I'm
weird
not
thing. Yeah.
against it at all. I
And that's
do
how I
think
met my
it's
wife, for the record.
yeah, I do think
Yeah.
it's generally a better idea. It's just you do also have to be really careful because I also do see a lot of relationships go on between just like very cluster B people and then people kind of get like really fucked. So I think your odds are better there, but also you have to be careful.
Yeah, you got to vet.
yeah,
All right, let's see
yeah.
what else we
No,
got
that's
here.
so true.
Higher risk and higher reward,
There you
essentially.
go. That makes sense.
But
Like for
she's
all
already
of its
inflated.
flaws, it's like fun too. Sorry, for all of its flaws, it is really nice to be able to sort of have all the cards on the table immediately. So it's
Yes,
like
yeah,
meeting somebody in a bar or at a club or
right.
whatever. You don't know, like you could have a connection, sure, with them because you think maybe they're attractive or you're having fun with them in that moment or what have you. And then when you guys actually start talking about things of substance, if politics is something of substance to you personally, um, then it shuts down immediately. It breaks down because you guys are completely incompatible. At least on Twitter, you can have all the cards on the table. Like,
Right.
I am this kind of a person. These are the things that I find valuable. These are the kinds of things that I believe in and would defend with my life or defend with my face attached to it, what have you. And then people know right away, they know what they're getting. And I find that like all of the Twitter people that I know who have somehow managed to find somebody, I will say this though, all of the Twitter people that I know who have somehow managed to find somebody off of Twitter that is somehow still compatible politically with them, they're fantastic relationships, like really, really, really good. Probably even stronger than the ones that meet on Twitter and also have compatibility.
Yeah.
I don't know, I have nothing to base that on, but what I have just seen. But I just find that it's getting rarer and rarer for you to have an organic in real life connection where you can sort of lay everything on the table like that. Except for if we did like what China is doing, where you like put up like a little advertisement in a park. And it's like, this is me, this is how old I am, this is what I believe in, this is what I like to do. And then it's like a picture. Then people go and they'll like, it's like all the moms, the moms and grandmas putting up advertisements for their grandkids or their children. And they put like everything on the chart. I feel like that would be a fun thing to do. If we return to like signposting.
Yeah, that's
like
fine.
I am looking
that's
for
old school. It's like newspaper
Yeah.
personals almost.
Yeah.
Exactly. I need like a schizophrenic husband who really hates Indians and like and just like putting it like all out there. And then you would get somebody calling you and you'd be like, hell yeah, let's go out. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else we got here.
Did maximum possible damage on me.
Once again, some fucking idiot is next to me at a coffee shop talking shit about trans people and how they're harmful. And he has no idea he's actually sitting next to a trans person who's minding their own business. And I said this loud, and then like they kind of like were like freaking out, and they started like gathering all their shit up, like all their food and like all their drinks, and they started to stand up and leave. And so did I. Just like slammed my laptop shut, and I was just like, I can't focus and study because I have some transphobe next to me fucking crying about shit he doesn't know. Like I just popped off. I just like was like popping off. I'm like walking back to my car, like it's like the type of propaganda that fucking works every time. Like for stupid people, like this shit goes so hard. Like they eat it up. They literally eat it up, and they are bewildered every single time they're in real life, not reading headlines on the internet, and a trans person's right there. Like,
it's kind of weird hearing somebody say in a TikTok video, like, for stupid people, this shit goes hard. Because that's a meme I've just started noticing a bunch of people doing on Twitter in like the last week.
Oh,
it's like, this is already breaking out into people. It's already entered the language now. We're saying, boy, if you're stupid, this must go so hard.
Yeah, like the Sorkin clip that everyone is saying. Yeah. I kind of feel like the story didn't happen. That's my take on it.
Yeah, this is r/that happened energy
Right.
for sure. Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it did just because he or she or whatever the fuck that is so emotional, but it probably wasn't as bad as he or she or whatever that is saying.
in some
it was
way
probably somebody being like, hey, this man wanted women's sports again or something, and then this happened. This just total fit of like complete despair.
Yeah, I trimmed the clip down a little bit, but the propaganda she was referring to, I want to say female. I don't know if it
I don't know.
I'm guessing biological female. Anyway,
No, I think it's FTM, right?
Too, because it's like the short hair. Most MTFs wouldn't keep their short hair; they'd probably grow it out. So
I think it's definitely an FTM.
An androgynous soy thing.
Yeah, it's a destiny.
Anyway, we don't have to go into.
So sick of this.
Anymore.
That Gen Z really doesn't have traditional dating periods. Yeah. It's you're just kind of hooking
There's
up.
no definition to anything.
Hey, we maybe should go back to like traditional dating. You know, my girlfriend's a Democrat. I'm like, well, get out.
How does that happen?
I don't know, and that's what I said. I said there is a fundamental difference in the values of Democrats and Republicans. That's not going to work. I mean, what happens if she gets pregnant? No one wants to commit or be in a traditional like dating.
Right.
It's these weird talking stages, and their talking stages mean like the hookup phase. Why do we have so many people making choices that really are against our biological nature? I feel like this is a majority of the Gen Z girls and the whatever they're calling that other generation. They really fell prey to this hookup culture. They're understanding that it's not making them happy. If you're a young man looking for a more traditional relationship,
go to church.
Yeah, I just feel like they have to live, you have to walk the walk, and you can't be calling for traditional lifestyles if you yourself are involved in hookup culture and things like that. So
That's the hypocrisy. That's the worst part. Yeah, I don't know.
Wait, no, because actually her arrangement is super trad, you guys. Being a part of a harem, literally trad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna have a take on this one, because I was gonna say, isn't this like the Radfem dream? Like you lock down, or it's not you lock down a baby with a rich guy and he pays for it. Is that not what radical feminism is about?
I don't think that's in line with radical feminism whatsoever. That's very, very patriarchal, in fact. So that's why I think she's really not being that much of like a hypocrite. It's just a trad from even further back. So she's actually out tradding the trads.
Yeah, she's Afghanistan, where everybody else is playing 1950s America.
Exactly.
That
makes sense.
What's more patriarchal than that? Yeah, like first of all, I don't consider myself a Radfem, but honestly, like at this point, I am like sort of Ditto from Pokemon, where people just sort of project onto me whatever they think I am, and I just become that thing, I guess, because in their eyes, that's what I am. Today I'm Jewish, tomorrow I'm Moroccan. Like who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, it's just part of the turf thing, right? Like probably like, because I would like label you as a turf, which has radical feminist in there, but it's really just because you don't like the trans stuff.
Yeah, and that's like, I think it comes down to, again, that sort of like dilution of language a little bit, because now you have like Republican congresswomen calling themselves TERFs.
Yeah.
And it's like, you probably aren't a radical feminist, but that word just sort of seems to mean anybody who opposes gender ideology at this point. So it just becomes what you are. But yeah, I mean, all I'll say about Ashley is obviously I pray and I hope that her baby is healthy and happy. And whatever is going on here with the whole, if I wanted to say what I really wanted to say, it seems like so often that, and I'm not even talking about this situation specifically, just in general, it seems like the sexual immorality that conservatives often project onto other groups of people, onto leftists specifically, they're guilty of it too. They just sort of pretend that they're not. They just sort of pretend that like leftists will take sexual immorality and justify it politically or ideologically. Conservatives will take sexual immorality and pretend they're not participating and condemn it, but they're really out there doing some crazy shit. I've heard the stories about what happens at conservative conventions or what happens after conservative conventions. I've heard all about it. I've heard about the clientele for the transgender prostitutes. Like, I mean, all of that exists in the conservative world. They just pretend it doesn't. There was just that convention that happened in London, ARC. The stories that I heard coming out of ARC of what happened afterwards was some of the most conservative, traddy personalities online. Like, it would make Destiny blush. And yet they participate in the culture. They just pretend they don't. Leftists, they're unashamed, and actually, you know what? It's the opposite. Let me correct myself. Conservatives participate in the culture while pretending that they don't and pretending that they hate it. Leftists don't participate in the culture because most of them are too prudish to actually hook up with one another.
Right.
But pretend that they do. It's like the total inverse. You've got one group pretending to be degenerates when they're not, and the other group pretending they're not degenerates when they are.
Yeah, there's been like studies and stuff about how conservatives have more sex and maybe even more partners and stuff like that. That is a weird sort of paradox for sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Social media contributes to the problem of people always thinking there's something else.
I am curious what you were alluding to when you were like, I can't say what I want to say. Was it basically that, or were you going to go in on Elon, or?
It was basically that, but I mean, just going back to sort of what you had said a little bit earlier about, that a lot of about the wagon circling, like when we were talking about how there's justifications that are made for people on your side always. I mean, he is out there ultimately, capturing the hearts and minds of all of these people who would consider themselves to be very traditional or very conservative when it comes to the family or whatnot. And this is a guy, again, with 12, 13, 14 kids by multiple different women, none of whom he was ever married to, or most of whom he was never married to, not taking care of most of them, not being an active participant in their lives. But he's going to lecture you on how we have to save Western civilization. When you can start by being a father to your children, because that's pretty important to the entire concept of Western civilization, is fatherhood or a nuclear family. So
yeah,
just saying.
Yeah, not to blow my own horn about being the only like conservative with integrity or whatever, but I call Elon out. I disapprove. I've said I do whole like stream episodes on this, and I just don't like it at all. And I don't understand what's so hard about that. I don't understand what's so hard about being like, I like what he's doing with Doge. I like how he's like he's doing some good things, but there's also other things that he shouldn't be doing. Like politics has turned into such a team sports thing that people don't even want to like say, oh, maybe Dave Rubin shouldn't gay adopt a surrogate baby, or what, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, we all have to congratulate him on his little boy.
Yeah.
Always a boy.
Always a little boy.
Except for Peter Thiel for some reason.
He has a boy and a girl, I thought.
No, they're saying he has 2 girls.
Really?
Yeah.
I was actually trying to find it when I made that post the other day, and you commented on that post. And again, it was the Game of Thrones meme.
Yeah.
It was actually, I had been thinking of your Game of Thrones meme when you had made it about the unmarried male influencers.
Yeah, I saw that too.
When I made it. But like, I was trying to like Google, like, does this guy, because I knew that he had kids, but I didn't know what sex they were. And I was trying to find it, and it was really hard to actually determine. I could find that he had 1 girl, but it seemed like the jury was out on the sex of the other one. And so I was a little bit confused. But you're saying he's got two girls?
That's what I've heard. And there's a lot of people around here that like know him personally. So.
Okay. I know that he's been trying to like keep them out of the, like, he doesn't want any media around them. They're not allowed
kept
to have
very,
social
very
media or
private, unlike
which is
the
good.
unlike the other billionaire like gay surrogate children who were plastered all over social media for some reason.
Yeah, and that's good. I think that's honestly the way to go.
It is.
Keep your kids off social media. I keep telling people, don't post pictures of your kids on social media. If you've seen what I've seen with respect to like predators online, you would never ever want to do it. Don't post pics of your kid. You do not need that attention from people. You can post pics of their art or what have you. Don't post pics of your kid. Talk about your kid. Just keep your kids off of social media for as long as humanly possible, because it's a dangerous place for them.
Dark.
Yeah.
Out there, well, I could do better. I think it's more important to be have shared values rather than interests. I think interests are temporary and could be switched out and changed. You want to promote family values and tell everyone to have families, and that's your purpose, but it's also very hard for people to do that now. So
there are a bunch of people trying to take your kid away from you as well.
Yeah, exactly. You have people who can't raise families the way that we're supposed to. They are really trying to take our children from us.
There was a lot of annoying culture war stuff around games in 2024.
Yeah, a lot of the talk revolved around women characters in games not being attractive anymore.
Yeah, and when I think about it, I have a very nuanced opinion on it, which is basically, who fucking cares? Have these people seen a woman up close before? What the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah. This one's funny to me. I mean, first of all, he's just doing the Reddit thing, like, oh, I have a very who fucking cares, and everybody's like supposed to clap, like, whoa. But also he's standing next to a woman who clearly, she probably spent like 3 fucking hours getting ready to look as good as she
looks
can.
Great. Her dress is banging.
Yeah, it's
I love
a nice
that
dress. Yeah. So there's an irony here, and it's this weird thing where it's like, oh, have you never seen a woman before? Like, they're not all super hot or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's true, but in a fantasy world, even in like a real world, in a Hollywood movie, like, what's so bad about people being good looking? So I think was it Kant? He said like beauty is a moral category. And it's because when you see beautiful people, you feel good in the same way that you feel if you see like a moral act. And so there's like something moralizing about beauty. It's this weird thing about, well, normal people are ugly, so people in games should be ugly. It's like, well, but why? Like, what's the point?
I think Kant was too autistic for that. I feel like that's Nietzsche.
I could be wrong.
I don't know though. It sounds like Nietzsche to me. Or maybe he's just said something really similar.
Are you guys gamers? Are you hardcore gamers?
No, I'm not a gamer. The games I played were all the stereotypical like girl games, like Sims. I used to play that for hours, and I always made them hot. That's true. So you didn't want like ugly Sims, and then like Animal Crossing, which again, like it's really funny because it's been like a meme a lot online where it's like women say that they're against racism, but then you see their Animal Crossing island and it's like a full-on ethno state. It's like they make sure like everyone's like a cat or everyone's like a wolf or some things. They pick like certain animals, they make their little ethno state, and then they kick out the ugly characters. So yeah, I mean, like, I think everyone kind of obviously likes seeing attractive people in media more generally. But some of the complaints I've seen from like the video game stuff have been like, all right, we're just nitpicking about like nothing. Like someone was like whining about like nasolabial folds on the woman, and she was like otherwise very like attractive and normal looking. She just had like a smile line. Like, I don't know. Sometimes it can get a little like, all right, that's enough. But I do understand, like, obviously why we want to have attractive people in media. And I think most people, women included, pursue that.
Yeah, I don't really play, like, I'm probably the worst gamer in the world because I just sort of hyper fixate on one game for an extended period of time. And I just use it
Same.
as sort of like a stress relief sort of thing. So
Yeah.
right now I'm playing through Dying Light 2 for like the second time, trying to like I'm making all different choices, but I clocked like 150 hours on Dying Light 2 my first playthrough. And I only play
Hardcore.
like zombie shooter games. Like that's the only kind of game that I like to play because I'm a horror movie fanatic. So those are the only kinds of games that I play. It's just like zombie shooter games. But the thing that's interesting to me about this clip is the millennial snot, as I think it was Dudley Newright coined the term millennial snot, but I had previously also made a post about the way that millennials sort of interact with language and how you called it Reddit, where he was doing like the Reddit thing, where just like inserting, it's like a Bill Carlin like reflex, where just inserting a bunch of swear words suddenly makes what you say a lot more profound or something like this, or inserting lewdness or obscenity into something that you say or something that you're doing. Millennials have kind of been trained into believing that that makes it more profound or that inherently makes it funny. And and I just hate it. Like I had seen this thing the other day, and I know this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but it was like a spice rub that was
Oh God, I know what you're talking about.
pork hub or something they had called it, and it was like a picture on the spice rub, the label. It was called pork rub, I think, and then like in the Pornhub font,
Yeah.
and then there was like a picture of like a a feminine looking pig getting spit roasted, and it was like very suggestive. And I was like, I remember when I posted about that, I was like, you can tell a millennial made this brand because of just how needlessly vulgar it is. And I just hate it. I hate it. And they all look like that too. They all have the stupid glasses and the stupid graying beard and the stupid hair. And then they just swear all the time, and they think that it's really funny because they're swearing, but they have the most milk toast takes on absolutely anything. And it just drives me nuts. I hate that. I know that's like a side thing from the game, but I was just thinking the entire time he was talking about Dudley's post, calling it millennial snot. And that's a perfect way of describing it.
It is so weird how like a lot of millennials are still stuck in this idea that like swearing is subversive and not like completely overused and in fact like obnoxious at this point. Like I feel like they're still like upset at like Bush and their parents. Like they still think it's like 2000. I don't know. It's really odd because
I think like when they were getting raised, it was subversive.
Yeah, that's what I
There was
mean.
probably more censorship in like
Right.
media than there is now. But guess why there's less censorship? Guess why it's cringe now? Because of them. They
Right.
did it. They took over media and made it cringe by overusing sexual tropes constantly, or overusing these very lewd tropes over and over and over again. And now it's like they don't understand that it doesn't translate to the new generation the way
Right.
that it did. Like, you should have left that with I Can Has Cheeseburger, or like Epic Mealtime with the
Or
heckin' sriracha
heckin'
and bacon.
pupperinos.
Yeah, that's when it started becoming a little bit tedious. And it's like it's funny to watch millennials sort of, because I'm noticing this. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, but I'm noticing millennial culture sort of turning into the nostalgic era for like Gen Z, where now they're
Yes.
romanticizing having a Windows desktop or something like
Yeah.
that. Like, they're romanticizing having a digital camera. The other day I was trying to buy a digital camera because there's this, I do collect cameras, and I noticed that the prices for digital cameras had gone absolutely insane. Like a Nikon Coolpix, which were like probably $50-$60 back in the day, are now like $1,000 on
A
eBay.
Coolpix?
A Coolpix. They're going for like $500 to $1,000 because all of these
What?
and zillennial people are trying to buy. They want like cute pink digital cameras to take aesthetic photos. So we're solidly in the millennial culture being romanticized era, and I'm sort of here for it. It's really fun.
That is really funny.
But at
It's
the
like
same
how
time, it's like boomers. Yeah, it's like boomers.
Yeah, it's like how Polaroid cameras, when those got really popular again, they got really expensive, even though they historically are quite cheap.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. Like, I remember those freaking Coolpix cameras. I cannot believe people are buying these for like $500.
They're really, if you want the pink ones, I noticed, because I just got curious and I was like Googling around to see how much these were going for, because I couldn't believe it. But the pink ones are going for like, some, if they're in mint condition, are going for over $1,000. It's completely insane, because
is
all of these
nuts.
Zoomers want cute pink digital cameras to take Y2K pics on.
Yeah,
It's absolutely crazy.
That's interesting. I haven't really noticed that. I do want to touch in with you guys on time, because I said it's going to be a short one. We're not even halfway through the clips, and we're an hour in.
Sorry. That's
Sorry,
probably
we're
me. I'm talking
yappers.
too much.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, this show is like either like the
Women be
people don't
talking,
talk at all,
women
or they
be
talk. I
talking.
actually I enjoy the ones where people talk a lot. It's more fun to me, but I just want to make sure you guys don't have to run like right now, or how are we doing? Because I do want to, before you go, I want to try to get to the super chats. So
I don't
go
have
ahead.
to run just yet.
yeah, if you can
I'm
just
good
give
for,
me
like,
like
another
a
hour.
5-10 minute warning when you have to
Yeah.
go. That
I
would
mean,
be-
I'm good at my so an hour from now is when I'd have to, like, that would be like a hard time for
Gotcha.
me. But yeah.
Cool.
Everybody.
And yeah, just to your point, Anna, there's nothing like less profound than saying "who cares" as an argument. That's like the laziest argument you can make.
That's the
about
most
anything.
Reddit argument
Yeah.
ever. It's always,
Yes.
who cares?
What does transgenderism in public look like to you?
It's allowing men to be treated for the purposes of the law as women. It's men taking 900 sports trophies from women in
Okay,
recent
that doesn't
years.
happen.
And
They didn't take 900.
They took 900. There's a report just came out from the United Nations, actually. 890 trophies and medals across 600 women who were competitors, across 29 different sports and 400 competitions. That came out like yesterday.
And they deserved them.
It didn't happen, and they deserve them. Okay, that is the logic
Yeah,
I hear
exactly.
from
Yeah, what?
Exactly. He got
That
it
made
like
me
immediately.
feel
It
so
didn't
violent.
happen, but if it did,
Yes.
Yeah, it was a speed run. It was a speed
Classic.
run of like that didn't happen, but it is happening, and it's good actually, and we need
Yeah.
more of it. Yeah.
That was fucking crazy. That pissed me off so much.
I love Michael Knowles, by the way. I do think that he's, out of all, I don't know what you
Wait.
guys' opinions are on him, but out of all of the conservative influencers or commentators, I actually
No
think that he's
way.
the most, I think that he's the most reasonable. I think that
Yeah.
he's the most respectful. I think that he actually knows what he's talking about, just for the fact that he prepared very well for this, because I watched this episode, and it was incredibly funny, by the way, to watch Jubilee, which is quite left-leaning, have to do the fact check and admit that he was correct in real
Right.
time. But I do actually really like Michael Knowles. I think that he's a great guy. He's always supported
Yeah,
me, and
that's-
he's very girl dad right, I think
He
is what he calls
is.
it.
That's so
great. I
funny
love
that
it.
you also are a Michael Knowles girl, because I was actually just about to say the same thing, and I've tweeted about it before. I'm like, I really hate like pretty much everyone at Daily Wire except for Michael Knowles. Like, I
Except for
love Michael Knowles.
Knowles. Every
The girls
woman that I
love
know
Michael
likes Michael
Knowles.
Knowles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every woman that I know loves Michael Knowles. He's just so respectful and he knows what
Yes.
he's talking about and just effortlessly is able to actually, because it conveys that you really know the subject. And I can't tell you, from like being somebody who's obviously covered gender ideology now for going on 3 years with Redux just had its 3rd anniversary. Like, I can't tell you how frustrating it is when I see people out there trying to kind of capitalize on gender ideology as a happening sort of trending subject, but really having no understanding of what the issue actually is or how this issue has actually manifested. They're just sort of repeating whatever memes they can sort of like come up with off the top of their head. But Michael, he actually held his own really, really well here. He embarrassed all of them because he knows what he's talking about, because he cares about it. And he's actually read the research to back up every single thing that he's saying. So I really respect him. I think he's a great guy.
Yeah, I like Knowles.
agree.
I like Walsh too. No love for Walsh. Those are the only two that I
would
can
do
stand,
violent
basically.
things to Matt Walsh.
Wait, what?
I would.
You would torture him in a shipping
I
container.
would torture him in like a shipping container for months if I could.
What's so bad about Matt Walsh?
Oh, we're gonna talk about how we hate Redditors, and you're not gonna hate Matt Walsh? Like, he just even looks like one.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a little bit of like the hipster flannel thing going on, but I mean, you know, whatever.
He drives me crazy. Very different
Is
guy.
it because of his social media presence?
Yeah, his Twitter's really bad.
I mean, I think Michael Knowles is probably, like you were saying, more informed and better at articulating the points, but I do think Matt Walsh is kind of funny, so he gets points from me for that.
And me, I will say this, and I'll say not a single thing more, so don't ask me about it, but you're all going to be very surprised when you find out who actually operates his Twitter account.
What?
Because it ain't him.
What?
As far as I have been told, as far as the communication which has come down to me, has told me that is actually not who is behind that Twitter account. And it's very, very funny that that Twitter account is actually like the only interaction people have with this content. Like, because even more people, I would say, interact with his Twitter account than even watch his videos or anything like that, his shows. But yeah, whoever's at the helm there is
Wow.
That explains a lot.
Tea. Actual tea being spilled on the progress
we got
report.
tea. I know men love nothing
tea.
more than tea. Men love drama. So
they do.
There's your tea. And that'll come out one day. Maybe it won't. I don't freaking know what contractual obligations people are under, but all I can say is that as far as I understand, that's not who is consistently tweeting from that account. And it makes it even funnier, trust me. But Michael, I love Michael. He's totally girl dad right. He's totally, like, you can tell he's a father of daughters because he actually cares and communicates things in a way that women care about. And I feel like if even half of conservative men were like Michael Knowles, I feel like you would actually have women flocking to the right en masse. Because he's just fantastic. I really, really appreciate him, and I think that he's a really reasonable voice out there. But as for the actual video itself that you've shown, so funny, like just so incredibly funny, because these people have no clue what they or maybe they do and they just can't grapple with it. They can't accept that everything that they advocate for, every single thing that they want, leads to negative outcomes. They just can't, like, maybe that's just like something that they cannot accept fundamentally, because it would mean that they would need to accept they're bad people unless they stop what they're doing. But yeah, just so funny. A meme in real life.
Really the perfect clip.
Thank you. They do deserve that.
So I'm sure most of us remember on I think the first day of Trump's presidency, he signed an executive order to declare only 2 genders recognized by the state, male and female, assigned at birth. So my initial reaction to this, because our president, is a lot of talk, was like, I'll believe it when I see it. And today, I saw it on my new passport. Mail.
Cry about it. cry about it, and then join the 41% for all I care. Like, I genuinely do not give a crap, because I'm not sure if you guys saw it. I'm sorry to like take over right away, but I don't know if you guys saw all the discourse that was happening online after this clip was released. And then of course you had people in the TERF space criticizing the clip and being like, well, that you are M because you are M.
Yeah, it's not really so much assigned as just it is what it is.
Observed.
Right? Yeah, it's like it's just you are used are.
But what it turned into, what it very quickly devolved into with trans activists on Twitter, was what it always devolves into. Girl is when pretty. So you had all of these trans activists attacking the women who were saying that Hunter Schafer is a man. He is male. He was born male. That is what he is. He'll never stop being male. It doesn't matter how he grows his hair or what he wears. He will always be male. And you had these trans activists responding to these women by saying, well, you're ugly and Hunter Schafer is pretty, and therefore Hunter Schafer is more of a woman than you because Hunter Schafer is pretty and you're ugly. And it's like, okay, so you admit it. You admit that you have this incredibly binary, despite claiming to be all about gender diversity and, oh, you're against shaming people's appearances or what have you. You will retract all of that in a second the moment you have a binary, which is pretty and ugly, and you're going to assign women who are not as skinny or don't have as, defined features as Hunter Schafer. You're therefore a man because Hunter Schafer is more of a woman than you, because Hunter Schafer, even though he has a penis, like he has a straight up dick, but pretty because skinny, because blonde, because long hair, and therefore more of a woman than you. It's just so funny to watch them just regress into this.
Yeah,
because
it's the
they're
exact
everything
same
they claim not to be.
It's the exact same position as Andrew Tate, as we just discussed earlier.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Hunter Schafer, like Andrew Tate would love you because you're so pretty. Because you're so pretty, you're so skinny, you've got long hair. He would love to probably not cam you, like because his customers want actual women, but he would absolutely fuck you. I'll shut up now.
Okay. This is one I posted on Twitter, and it did big numbers. And I already know what you're going to say, Anna, but I'll just play the clip here.
God. Did you guys just pay for somebody else's food stamp card?
You talking to me? What?
Yeah. Did you guys just pay somebody else's food stamp card?
If I did, what the fuck is it your business?
Excuse me. Food stamps are paid by taxes. I'm an American citizen, tax-paying citizen.
What you are? Worry about your goddamn taxes.
My taxes are paying for your food.
No, your taxes is not. Bitch, get the fuck on.
This is my business.
Man, what the fuck are you doing?
I'm getting as much information as possible so
What?
that when
You
the
gotta
cops
get the fuck
come,
on.
I can give it all to them.
You call the cops? What's
Not
wrong
yet,
with you?
but
Don't worry about it.
they're
Don't worry about
coming.
it. Bitch, I'm gonna give you a reason to fucking call the cops when I beat your
That's
ass
fine.
in a minute. Quit
That's
worrying about my
fine.
motherfucking
Give me
business.
more to give
Yo,
them.
quit fucking recording me.
You know what? It's fine. It's
Don't
fine.
fucking hold me back, bitch. Let me tell you motherfucking something. If you keep that fucking camera going, I'm gonna beat your ass. I'm gonna have a reason for the cops to come out here.
It's a free country. We can do whatever the fuck we
Oh, a
want.
free
Get the fuck out of
country.
here.
Of course I forgot. You guys are so used to taking everybody else's stuff. You just assume it's free.
Okay.
Yeah, that one went viral on Twitter, and it was almost like racially, like you could see the different sides. Like all the black people are like, mind your own business. They're saying
Was there
shit
another
like
race
that.
war?
And then the white people are like, I'm sick of these people, like, whatever, leeching, whatever it is.
What exactly did she do? She took someone else's food stamps?
Yeah, they paid with somebody else's food stamps. So I guess I don't know exactly, but I'm just speculating here. I'm just intuiting that people probably sell their food stamps for drug money and stuff like that.
Oh God.
Right. And so you probably you save money if you're actually going to use the food stamps, right? You probably get a discount. And so I'm guessing that's what happened. And then what I predicted Anna was going to say here is that we love our Karens, don't we, folks? Karen defense. I don't know if you're on board with this one, but I love it. I'm like, Karens are the last line of defense in civilization against chaos.
That's what I said, exactly. And yes, I understand there are occasions where Like, there are just really crazy videos that have circulated of a woman appearing to be completely unreasonable, right? But the fact of the matter is, Karens as sort of like a social archetype are actually extremely necessary and have always existed because they are the immune system. They are
Yeah.
sort of, older women who have already sort of been through shit and who are out there in the world and they're observing some sort of a breach of the social order or of the social contract. I think that we hate Karens a little bit too much, is what I've said, because that is the role that they play. They're actually the foot soldiers of civilization in a quiet way. They're actually out there doing things because what is it? I am a Karen. I have seen something which is, in my opinion, breaching the social contract, breaching the social order. I must stop it. And they're actually going out there and they're doing that. They're actioning on that. And so I do actually think Karens are necessary for society. I do think that this entire like meme of hating Karens, it comes from the same people who sort of put white in front of woman in order to make whatever misogyny they say like socially acceptable. Like, you can't say women are evil, but you can't say white women are evil.
Right.
It's just that same sort of, Reddit feminism basically that goes after Karens or Reddit hatred. And I just hate seeing the word. I hate it. Anyway, you know the post, my thesis on this subject. So
I really hate the word too, and it got so out of hand so fast. They really are like kind of like the white blood cells, you could say, of like our society, and effectively we kind of are all developing like this autoimmune disorder where we've decided, oh no, we have to like attack ourselves like, for protecting, our rules. It's crazy. It's really so fucking crazy how people get so worked up about Karen. I think it's just a side effect of like this low trust society where everyone just kind of wants to, seek their rent and try to figure out their way to take advantage of the system. And basically the Karens don't want to have that happen because they actually care about, preserving things and not having this like death spiral into just anarchy. And people get like mad at them and accuse them of being like this tattletale, or it's like, well, no, this is like a natural defense mechanism for an actually healthy and functioning society. So
yeah, and you
even on like a political
it came out of nowhere, right? And then it just spread like wildfire. And maybe that says something about our society, right? Maybe bad times create Karens, and then Karens create good times. I don't know.
No, I think so. And I think that like, I don't know, like I had sort of gotten into it the other day when I was talking to somebody. Somebody had commented under my post. It was one of those repeal the 19th people. And I'd sort of talked about the immune system attacking itself, that the social and political body has like an autoimmune disease where the body is more or less attacking the functions that should work or should be there or should be healthy rather than attacking the invasive non-healthy cells. And I feel like that's basically where we're at. And I feel like Karens are something that can be weaponized or something that can exist in a political context where you have done, like going back to Michael Knowles, if even just 50% of conservative men were like Michael Knowles, I feel like the right would have a foot army of Karens.
Yeah.
And Karens are powerful. Karens are strong. Karens can actually change the opinions on things. Karens can actually change perceptions, and they can enforce the rules that you have dictated to be enforced. They are fantastic foot soldiers, but it's just like the right hasn't quite figured out, or certain sides of the political spectrum haven't quite figured out how to weaponize them. So instead of weaponizing them, they demonize them.
Because the right like fundamentally rejects the archetype of the crone and acts like it's like either evil or useless, and it's like one of their biggest mistakes.
Absolutely. So true, Queen. So true. But yeah, like I do think that it's been weaponized to a degree, just going back to the Karen thing. It's been weaponized to a degree that you can justify completely unacceptable crimes against women by just accusing her of being a Karen. I don't know if you remember I think it was last year, where there was that pregnant healthcare worker in New York who was basically
the bike thing.
by those black guys. Yeah, who was ganged by those black guys over her bike, and they were apparently trying to steal her bike, a bike that she had evidence that she had paid for or checked out or something like this. And what was everybody online saying? Is she's a Karen for crying. Why? Because she was surrounded by young men, was pregnant, was clearly terrified, and they were trying to take away a bike from her, which, as far as I understand, you get charged like $1,500 to your credit card if that bike goes missing. And she probably doesn't have the money for that. And everybody was just, oh yeah, Karen, just a Karen, white woman tears, yada, yada, yada.
A
And
white
it's like,
woman
I just
harassing black people.
Yeah.
That's like the archetype
Over,
of Karen, right? Yeah.
And didn't she end up getting fired?
Did she? I know
I
she
thought, like-
launched a lawsuit against someone. I can't
Yeah.
quite remember who, but she did launch a lawsuit, and there was evidence that her lawyer released showing that she did indeed pay for that bike. She did like unlock it with her phone.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, that story pissed me off so much. I couldn't believe it. They're gonna act like this woman was terrorizing these teens.
Like
a lot of the Karens got
pregnant white woman is harassing 6 significantly younger black guys. Like, I just don't believe it for one single second. Even putting race to the side, that's just not happening. A woman is not facing off against 6 young men. Like, that's just not how it works on her own. Like, please, let alone while pregnant.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
Well, we are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it, because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one.
So that's like the governor of Maine, I think it was, and saying she's not going to comply with the trans ban on sports. I just love how
is
Trump
Maine
is
that
like,
woke?
He's like, oh, they're progressive, but I did very well there. He's always got to throw that in. I love it.
Yeah, it is interesting you said that, because like the first thing I was wondering was like, is Maine even that woke? Like, I don't think of them as being.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
like outside of like the major city centers, like, because I've been to Maine and I spent a lot of time in Maine. Like, there's Portland, Maine, which is like, I would assume it's a more liberal city, because it's like, it's an actual city, so it's an urban center. Those tend to lean more left. But when I was like going through like Augusta and Bangor and places like that, it was all Trump signs. Like, everybody had a Trump sign. Like, it was Trump across the board. People loved Trump out there. And I know that's a more rural sort of area, but still, people absolutely loved Trump out there.
I mean, it's like in that place where it's like mostly white people, isn't it? Like Vermont,
it's
I
like,
know.
Yeah,
and
I think it's one of the whitest states in the country.
It is. Yeah. It is.
It probably is a bit progressive.
But I think that it's interesting, because we have had a couple of cases out of Maine that we've covered for Redux. And on the sports front, there was, I would say about a year ago now, there was a girls basketball team at a high school, Christian high school, where they actually got disqualified from the state tournaments, the state championships, because they had refused to play against a team that had a trans-identified male from an opposing school. So those girls were totally taken out of being able to move on to the tournaments, despite having a really, really good record, and they probably could have made it to the championships, and they were literally banned from doing so. They were not allowed to continue. So I'm happy if Trump actually does weaponize federal funding to force states into compliance on certain issues, because like the prison issue is another thing, because yes, we have now a federal ban on trans-identified male inmates going to women's prisons. That's a federal ban, so for federal inmates.
Right.
But we don't have anything on the state level, and it's a state-by-state situation for who gets to go into what prison or how prison housing is actually determined. So states like Washington, states like California, states like Oregon, I would absolutely die to see Trump actually deny them federal funding unless they remove men from women's prisons. Because Washington, especially, you would not believe the amount of men that they have in women's prisons. Like, it's actually absurd, the amount and the caliber, like the risk, the security clearance for some of these men. They've got Donna Perry, who is a serial killer. He killed at least 3 women. He's been in the women's prison. They've got men in there who have been convicted of multiple sexual assaults. They've got pedophiles in there because there's really only one women's prison. It's in Gig Harbor. They have so many extremely, extremely violent men. So these were not men who were charged with, having drugs, selling drugs, something like that, where you could say, okay, well, that's not really a terribly violent crime. Almost every single one, our source within that facility told us that about 80% of the men that he knows of in that facility have been convicted of crimes against women or children. So it's a really bad situation in Washington, and I would love to see them forced to comply because all of those men need to go back to the male estate.
I believe it. I'm in Washington, so I believe it.
And enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
The only way that they win is we retreat, and we're not going to retreat. We're not going to surrender. We're not going to quit. Fight, fight, fight. Amen.
That's why I'm going to join the Elon Musk and President Trump's movement. My heart goes out to all of you. Fight, fight, fight.
You're getting deported. You can barely speak English.
Accent.
You can barely speak English. You gotta go back.
Cringe, cringe, cringe. Like, that's just all it is. It's.
I mean, Bannon was just being a troll. Like,
Yeah.
that's just who he is. He's being an absolute troll. He knew that people would get pissed off, and he knew that people would talk about it. But I don't know who this guy is, but he's going back. I can tell you that.
Face. Yeah. Yeah, they're making it uncool somehow to do Nazi salutes if they keep this up.
The group is made up largely of transgendered women who are vegans and are highly concerned about artificial intelligence. The leader of the so-called Zizians is Jack Lasota, whose network of friends took up residence in California 5 years ago. But it wasn't long before their landlord was stabbed multiple times and later shot to death. Police believe the group is also tied to the shooting deaths of Richard and Rita Zajko, who were killed inside their Media, Pennsylvania home. Their daughter, Michelle, is also tied to the Zizians group. Federal authorities recently launched a manhunt for her arrest. But in Maryland last night, officers found Zajko along with leader Jack Lasota. They were arrested in Allegheny County, where they're charged with trespassing and possession of a handgun. The circumstances surrounding their arrest are still unknown, but authorities hope questions about their past will soon become far more clear.
So yeah, I wanted to hear your take on this one, Alex. I'm sure you probably looked into it a little bit. From what I understand, they considered themselves rationalists in terms of like the ideological like bent of their cult. They're like, we're rationalists. They were on these forums like Less Wrong and stuff like that, and talking about these things like effective altruism and that. But of course, just killing people. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this one?
Destiny fans gone wild.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, this isn't a case that I've looked into a lot, simply because I have actually somebody else at Redux who's doing it for me because I've just been so incredibly busy. But I'm not surprised. I actually think that it's sort of interesting because there's another group that I've been made aware of recently, separate to this one completely, or who knows, maybe eventually we'll find out that they cross paths or have to do with each other in some sort of way, but it also has to do with transgender people who glorify, serial killers, school shooters, this sort of thing. And that, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that they're trans in this particular case. Not surprised that they're vegan. They're probably trans because they're vegan. Those two things just go together. They're just hopped up on all that soy and estrogen. And then they're doing violent things. Really, estrogen is like toxic to the male body. And then it drives men completely insane. So I'm not surprised about this at all. Very tragic though that they've taken so many lives.
Interesting. The school shooter thing you touched on, that's not like related to like that. There was like that black incel guy and then this other girl, trans girl person. Is that part of
Natalie, no, she wasn't trans.
Okay. Right. Oh yeah, they said she was incel. And I just remembered Radfem Hitler was like implicated in that. But that wasn't real, but that was what Twitter was saying was that you inspired that. That's funny.
No, that was completely insane. And like how that story actually fell into my lap was completely just by accident. I had been going around on Twitter and I ended up interacting with the alleged boyfriend of the killer, who literally gave me her manifesto after I spoke to him for a little bit and I published it. I don't know if you remember, people were saying all kinds of things about my intentions behind that, but literally it was just because when you have a source who's talking about something that's like relevant, you know, if they're willing to let you consent to you publishing something, why wouldn't I do that? Like everyone was curious about what it said, and I had him verify as much as I possibly could that this was in fact real and it came directly from her. I actually had him send me a couple of screen recordings of him showing where precisely this download came from, because it was not the Google Doc. It was actually directly from her text messages to him.
Yeah, I don't know why people are mad about that, because like people, because you exonerated Radfem Hitler basically because people were saying she was named in the manifesto, she was the inspiration, and I said it's funny, but I imagine it probably wasn't that funny for you at the time, RFH. I know if I ever got implicated in a shooting, that's like a worse nightmare thing for me as a content creator, that you find out one of these crazy people was like a fan of yours or whatever. So I don't know. Do you want to speak to that at all, of that experience?
I mean, yeah, it like really sucked at the time. It's probably like the worst thing that has like happened to me on since like having this account. I mean, I can like take a lot of shit and like people yelling at me. It honestly just kind of makes me laugh and kind of gives me like a weird energy. I find it really funny, but that was not funny like at all. Like that was just like so fucked up and crazy. Because like people actually died, you know?
Yeah.
So it was not fun, but I just knew that like I had to like, you know, deactivate and take a break for a minute. And I also knew like when I read it that it wasn't real. Like I could just immediately tell, like it was just so on the nose and so obvious, like very over the top.
Yeah, very Twitter troll energy.
Yeah, it did. And this has happened before too, you know,
like
the
the
one
Sam
guy who
Hyde
shot up.
meme and that kind of thing.
Yeah, like the Sam Hyde stuff, and then the guy who shot up the people in, you know, New Zealand, and he said Candace Owens like radicalized. Like this happens all the time. So
yeah.
And I think Sam Hyde has even talked about like the whole that he's become the meme for like when something happens, people blame it on Sam Hyde. I think he's actually spoken out against it and said that it really bothers him when people try to implicate him in crimes that he hasn't committed, because obviously why wouldn't it? Like why wouldn't, especially if it's an absolutely like one thing calling him like the ghost of Kiev or something like that, but it's another thing actually directly implicating him in like a crime that might have happened in the United States, and so maybe the police are calling him up or something. I can totally understand why he was pissed off about that. But like even after all that happened, like when I was releasing the documents that I was getting from this kid, I hadn't even known that you were deactivated yet. I didn't even know that you were deactivated yet. I had seen the snippet that was going around, and people even afterwards accused me of editing out that snippet. They accused it of being in the doc, and I edited the document to remove references to you. And there was like this conspiracy theory that was going around on like I think 4chan, and you sent me a screenshot of it, of people like accusing me directly of being complicit in trying to exonerate her from the crime when no such thing occurred.
I know.
That was just wild.
I mean, if you actually like read the real manifesto, it just doesn't go along with the tone of the fake snippet. Like they don't match. Like you obviously didn't remove it, and it really like highlighted to me like this is one thing I really learned from it. And I already kind of had a sense for this sense because I've I've seen so many like false rumors circulate about myself and like other people that I know, and how easily they take hold. It really showed me like how much like conspiratorial thinking can really like just immediately take hold, and even when it's a completely irrational, even though it's completely fake. So it just really has made me so much more wary of like things I read online. I already was, but it really like emphasized that for me even more so. It's just kind of crazy to see in real time how
With
people
you as the subject.
Yes, yeah, when you're the subject, it's so you can really see how crazy it is.
Yeah, it's
And I even
surreal.
unfollowed a couple of people. I'll say this, I'm sorry, but like I even unfollowed a couple of people because there were people who were spreading that snippet as a meme. Like that's one thing to be like, haha, this is just hilarious, or like, oh my God, first Radfem school shooter or something like that. But you know it's a meme, and you know that that person wasn't being 100% serious. They were just sort of like dunking on whatever information was out there at the time. And then there were people who were spreading it with the absolute intention of attempting to mislead as many people as possible into believing that it was real. And there were a couple of people that I had even previously had really, really good relationships with and liked a lot and came to their defense before and whatnot. And I saw them talking about that they didn't care if it was fake. Just you deserved it. You deserved it because you're a bad person, or they don't like your posts, or you're this or you're that. And I was like, people are dead. You're misleading people about a school shooting, like an actual fucking school shooting, like people, like a young girl who is completely mentally ill and possibly completely fucked up by her parents. You're trying to mislead a connection where there is none, and you know there is none. Like that's what was killing me, is that there were people who were spreading it and they knew that it was fake and they didn't care, and they would even say things like, who cares, she deserves it, I hope she stays gone because she's like the worst person on this app, or stuff like that. And I'd be like, what, come on.
Yeah,
like it's really grow up.
I mentioned before you joined the stream that RFH has like a unique ability to incense people. Like she really brings out a kind of like a real anger and hatred from people that I find quite interesting. Like it's like we need to study and figure out what's going on there, because it is kind of unique. We are starting to get low on time. Let's see if we can get through one or two more clips here before we wrap it up.
We have to
stop yapping.
We have to stop this.
When the roads were congested, the road wardens would come with a small wooden stick, and they would tap on the buses to remind the drivers to move them away immediately. Even so, the drivers don't get angry because they are used to it. It's expensive to repair buses, and even after they're fixed, they get banged up. So they don't bother repairing it, and even if the glass is broken, they don't replace it. In Bangladesh, the appearance of the bus doesn't matter. They use it until it is completely obsolete.
Yeah, I know you've gotten into it with the Jeets, and I wanted to that's
well, it's
Bangladesh,
funny
yeah.
because I also was like, it seems like India, but also kind of doesn't seem like India. So it's
Yeah,
interesting.
because I saw the woman wearing she was wearing a head covering, she was wearing a hijab. I was like, that's probably not India. It's probably either Pakistan or Bangladesh. And I was thinking it's probably Bangladesh. I should have said it. I should have locked my answer, but no, it was in there. My racism is very, very finely honed. I know where things come from. I know the subtle differences. I can identify them. I'm an anthropologist.
Yeah, I went to Guatemala a few years ago, and it was like the same kind of thing almost on the roads, where it's just like you got, it's not like here, to put it lightly, you know what I mean? Like you got motorcycles driving in between cars, and it's just like a huge traffic jam, and it's I don't know, man. Let's see what else we got here.
For the person out there who's planning on doing it, you know, the thing that we all wake up every day hoping we'll see in the news, and we're like, man, no one's done it yet. Keep going. Your plan, it's gonna work. If not, it'll inspire the next person, and we are all rooting for you. You have our support, you have our admiration. We might make a national holiday out of you, and I will definitely put money on your books. And if you're into this sort of thing, I'll write you some letters of the naughty sort, should you find yourself behind bars for it. But we're all rooting for you and hoping that you do it quickly and get away with it.
Gee, I wonder what she could be talking about. You know, it's two people tried to kill the guy already, and we're still like just making jokes about it like it's not a real thing. But you know, we're in the new era now, which is the Luigi Mangione or whatever that guy's name was era. And I expect we are going to see more of that. Do you have any thoughts on that whole thing?
I do think we're going to see more of it. I think Luigi actually might get off. Genuinely. Like, I think public support for him is so crazy.
Yeah, his trial started and they're like lining up around the block just to like get a glimpse of this guy. There's no way he's gonna get off though.
I don't know. I don't think it's non-zero. I think there's like a genuine chance. I mean, it comes down to a jury, right? So if they select the right jury, and there's a lot of people who just like love him. Like if you like saw the donation page for his fund for his legal defense, there were like people from like the NYPD on there saying like, yeah, we support you, we're behind you, Luigi. Like, it's crazy.
He's like the Joker.
Yeah.
But like, I think honestly, I'll say two things about this. One, I really, really dislike the Puritan attitude that some people on the right have adopted about people making jokes about certain crimes on the left, simply because it's like, dude, you are joking about rape and murder all day long.
Yep.
So long as it's like the right person. So you aren't going to tell me that this person should lose their job or what have you over a joke of a similar caliber just aimed at somebody that you actually support. I just find that entire brand of sort of like boomer con, clutching your pearls and feigning offense, I just find it to be really, really egregious. And I dislike it immensely because you are ultimately a hypocrite. You would have no issue if it was a different target. So ultimately, who cares? But also, I think this, I mean, I kind of want to get into something about women sort of circling around men with dangerous auras, but I don't know if I can articulate that fast enough, and I don't want to yap your ear off. So,
well, I mean, hibistrophilia is like a known thing, right? Where like these serial killers and that they get love letters, like it's a pretty well-known, established phenomenon. Yeah, and so it's almost like she's just trying to like manifest that for herself.
Like, it's just, I don't know, like, yeah, I guess that's true, but I do take issue with the fact that it's exclusively applied to women, where, I mean, you've seen the Twitter accounts, mugshotties and whatnot. Yeah, posting, oh, she, arrested for 5 counts of domestic violence, and then there's men in the comments like, I can change her, send her to my house, she can violence me. Like, all this kind
there's
of stuff.
a lot of that.
So I just feel like men, they romanticize violent women. Women aren't allowed to romanticize violent men or men who have certain auras. But again, I think this goes back to the discussion we were having about Karens, and women can be fantastic foot soldiers for certain causes, so long as you have a vibe that they sort of align with. I mean, you can bring up a million pictures of Hitler surrounded by like how many women, like like just dozens of women surrounding Hitler or Stalin or like all of these different figures. So ultimately it all comes down to vibes. Women are vibe based. And I got a lot of heat about that the other day for saying that if your side cannot align with the vibe necessary to get all of these Karens, all of these young women to fight for you, that's a skill issue. But I do stand by that, and I believe that immensely.
Spitting facts, queen.
Well, let me say this with the mugshotty thing. There's probably a bit of a difference there in terms of like shit posting on Twitter versus like actually writing letters to
But they do write letters. Casey Anthony had multiple marriage proposals to herself in prison.
And also
for killing her kids.
Jodi Arias. Jodi Arias killed her boyfriend, and she got marriage proposals while she was in prison. There was an entire fan club dedicated to her. Men would come down every week to the prison asking for her hand in marriage. Gypsy Rose Blanchard killed her mom, and she got married from a guy who came to her and visited her in prison. It happens all the time with dudes. Dudes be loving crazy bitches. Dudes be loving always. Dudes love the crazy bitch. Dudes love the crazy
bitch is never without a boyfriend. I'll tell you that.
A crazy bitch is never. Why do none of these none of these BPD women? They always are in relationships.
Always have a boyfriend.
They always have one boyfriend crying over them, another boyfriend waiting in the wings. The BPD queens, they get it. They get it because men like a little bit of crazy. They like it keeps it exciting. You talk about wanting the trad girls. You talk about all the little milkmaids at home just baking little muffins and stitching little crochet things. You would get bored to shit of that. That would lose its enticing nature after a week. You
It's
would
the
get
Nietzsche
bored. You'd be on the
quote.
streets looking for the BPD bitch.
Yeah,
While you
it's
have
danger
the trad
in
wife at
play.
home. Please, let's be honest here.
Okay. By the way, you mentioned Luigi's fundraiser, and I pulled it up just out of curiosity. And for anybody else who was wondering, he's at $620,000.
Wow! Holy crap.
Not too bad. Not too bad. He's not on Daniel Penny. Didn't he get like 2 million or something like that? But still, pretty good amount of support
he got millions.
there.
How old is that GoFundMe?
Yeah, but
though?
is
Like, do you
it?
know?
I think it's not as old as the Daniel Penny one, is it? No.
Not as old, no.
Yeah.
So there's still time. There's still time, ladies.
It's still time.
Get your donos
We'll see. We're racing.
Okay,
See who
let's do some super chats here, and we'll call it a day. Okay, Cat Respecter sent $5, no message. Thank you for that. Okay, I'm not reading that person's name, but he says,
"Oh God,
I can't read it." But he says, "I like that curly hair." Oh, okay, I'm not reading that part either. Never.
Was that what was it that he was? I'm not going to say the words, but was he accusing me of being black or Jewish?
No, it was just
Oh,
it was a
okay.
lot more vulgar and sexual.
Yeah, I thought it was he's referencing something else that's sexual in nature."
Okay, well, if it was nice, thank you. If it wasn't nice, end your life in front of me. Send me a video of you fucking drinking bleach.
It's
Thank
not
you.
nice enough to be read in polite company here. But he sent another one and he said, "Yo, Curly, you single or what?"
Yeah, I think it's complimentary, but it's vulgar.
Okay, well, in that case, don't drink bleach. Thank you very much. I love you and I pray for you. But yeah, I mean, I'm vol cell maxing right now, so just trying to keep celibate at the moment.
Nice. My wife's her I can say this. Her Twitter handle, like the @ was Volcel Cope when I met
Nice.
her. Yeah.
I like it.
Okay, Nero sent $10. He says IVF is disgusting. 10 babies are made and only implant one, then pray it takes 9 humans flush down the drain. Yeah.
It's sort of interesting to see people who are pro-life but not anti-IVF.
Yeah.
I don't really
Yeah.
understand that.
I didn't know that much about it, like, because I was kind of like, here's the thing is like, I find it hard to judge people who have genuine fertility issues. You know, you can put all the like the gay surrogacy stuff aside, that's something else. But like people who just are like a married man and a woman and they want to conceive but they can't, I find it hard to like judge them for doing what they have to do. But knowing more about it, I don't know. Maybe some people should just adopt. I don't know. I'm not going to judge. I'm not judging people who do that. It's your call, but that is fucked up. As from a pro-life position, that is fucked up that's how it works. Okay. Betrayed sent $5. Will a trans movement return to the mainstream in 4 years after Trump? Thoughts on that?
I don't think so.
I think it could.
Is it done?
Really?
I feel like it could. I feel like it really depends on how far back in the memory, in like sort of people's collective memory, the craziest points in time go. Because I mean, this isn't really the first iteration of trans activism that we've experienced as a society. Like this is probably, honestly, because people would be shocked, but like back in the 70s and 80s, there were really violent, militant trans organizations that existed and were out there actually actively shutting down women's festivals. The Michigan Festival is like a really, you know, infamous example of that, because you had these trans-identified males who were angry that they were not being allowed into a lesbian music festival in Michigan that happened every year. And they would actually camp outside, threaten the women inside. They were distributing flyers that said, real women have peepees. All of this sort of stuff that you would apply to just crazy people on Twitter today, they were doing it back then. So we're probably on the third or fourth iteration of this trans activism. So it's entirely possible that we get another one a few years down the line.
Yeah, Weimar Germany too. They had that kind of thing going on. Okay, Nero sent $20. He says, I work in defense, contracting, aerospace, manufacturing, and the last 8 years has all been DEI hires. My last 4 managers have been black women. Go figure. Yeah, so we were talking about the Delta. That was before you came on, Anna, but the Delta plane crash thing that happened. And so there you go. He says he works in it. He works in it, and that's what he's seeing. And that was the Boeing whistleblower thing. There was a similar thing, or there's like a lawsuit, and then he died. And he was saying same thing, that the hiring practices were, they were prioritizing diversity. So I do think that's tied into why we're seeing more of these incidents lately. LP's discarded crack pipe sent $5. He said, it's okay, LP. I know you still think about me and our little MDMA. He's about to start high school, right? He asks about you sometimes, and I don't know what to say. Yeah, I was telling RFH that I used to rave way back in the day in my senior high school days. And
really?
Yeah. So.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, I had like the big pants, the giant raver pants, all that kind of thing. Let's see. Okay, that's all the power chats, I think. Let me just double check. Because I think I might have seen one more come in. No, I think that's it for that. Let me go over to YouTube now. Yeah. Okay. We got $5 from Oil King. He says, no more fault divorce. He means no fault divorce. Needs to end up. Find a website that wants to repeal yag. I toot. Okay. All right. And this is also, we have another no fault divorce one from Oil King. He sent $10. He says, repeal no fault.
Oil King, who hurt you?
Yeah.
Who hurt you? Baby, who hurt you? Tell me.
He says, repeal no fault divorce. Does anyone find a ladies at libraries? LP, it seems people can't have normal dates with a chaperone. Work hard, play hard. Do you ladies like to do outdoor activities?
I do.
There.
I like outdoor activities.
I do. I like to fish, actually.
You fish?
I fish. I like to fish.
That's so cool.
I'm like the weirdest fishing person because I absolutely love to fish. I like to go out and fish, and then I feel just crushing amounts of guilt when I actually catch a fish, and I'm like, I'm so incredibly sorry, fishy. I didn't mean to hurt you, but I do like fish. I like fishing. I like self-sustainability, and it's just I have to get over that. Like, I'm so sorry, fish, when I actually catch a fish, because I'm like, he just wanted to swim, and then he caught my worm.
I get it. I too have empathy for the little fishy. I don't go fishing myself, but I totally would. Like, I would feel bad. My outdoor activities, I ski, snowboard, do that kind of stuff. So
nice.
That's outdoors.
Yeah, I think the women having empathy for animals thing, that's a green flag. Like, if your woman doesn't care about animals, there's something wrong there. Like, my wife gets sad if we have to like kill a mouse or whatever, you know what I mean? So I just think that's totally normal and expected and good. Yeah.
That's like my grandmother. She had goats and chickens and like all of that kind of stuff. And she actually had to give away her chickens because she felt so incredibly bad about the prospect of killing them. Like, she didn't want to do it. Like, she just couldn't. She had gotten so attached to these chickens that we had eggs from them, and she loved them. She loved them so much that she just couldn't do it. And she just gave them to another home when it was time to actually turn them into chicken. That she couldn't do it. She was like, I would never be able to forgive myself. I'd never be able to forgive myself. And I think that's where my like fishy love comes from.
Cheetah Man in the regular chat, he said fishing is based and Bible pilled. So there you go.
Nice.
I just wish there was a way to do it without hurting the actual fish. Like, I get it, I know, and I've done it, and I've caught trout and whatnot, and I've actually processed them, and I've made food with him, but I just couldn't get over. It was like he just wanted to swim that day and he saw my worm and he ate it, and it was just a terrible mistake.
I don't think they're too worried about it. Daily Mind Virus sent $5. He said, beauty takes effort. This mission to downgrade it is more pandering to the lazy. It takes a lot of work to maintain a 6 out of 10. So that's back to the video game thing, I guess. I don't know, man. I don't pandering to the lazy. I think it's a little bit more this sort of weird empathy where like anything that makes anybody feel bad is bad. And you know, it's like, this has been going for a long time. The beauty standards for women, beautiful women make young girls feel bad if they see them in movies. So we can't have beautiful women in movies because, you know, and magazine covers and stuff like that, which there's something to that. Like the amount of work that goes into those magazine covers it's not really portraying reality, but I think it's more that sort of empathy than it is anything to do with like, we just want to be lazy.
Yeah, no, I agree with that actually. And I think much of what we're experiencing right now in the culture is like the backlash against beauty standards. I feel like, first of all, some of it is absolutely reasonable, just like you were saying, because things that we have seen are not actually related to reality in the slightest. But also, I think that the current iteration that we're experiencing is primarily a backlash against the early 2000s glorification of things like, because you had around that time is when you had a lot of gay men flood into the fashion scene, and it became more socially acceptable for gay men to speak about women's bodies, and be more loud and proud about
I have a fishing and hunting license,
but
I have done neither because when I got them, the people that I was going to go fishing and hunting with died.
Especially
Anna,
female
can you
fashion
please
models and whatnot. They didn't want them to have breasts. They didn't want them to have hips. They didn't want them to have all of the things that women are known for having in their feminine beauty, because they're not attracted to that. They don't have any appreciation for breasts or hips. They wanted women to look like this. They wanted women to have like the
twinks.
Shapeless bodies, of a twink or of an underage boy. And that is what they geared it towards. So you had all of these gay male commentators constantly putting, like Perez Hilton, remember him, where he would do all day long was about, oh, Britney Spears, look how fat and disgusting she is, and then show the most normal body that a woman could possibly have. And then you had all these women developing, like Angelina Jolie and all of these women developing like horrific eating disorders in Hollywood to avoid being gay male tabloid fodder. And then I think the backlash against that is we're still like on the aftermath of the backlash against that, because women were sick and tired of being told that they weren't allowed to have any shapes whatsoever. And it just went into a radically opposite direction of now we're going to overcompensation, and we're going to even out eventually, because that's what happens. But I feel like everything we're experiencing right now is a result of that early 2000s gay men speaking on women's bodies and thinking they had a right to tell us what to look like. I do genuinely believe that.
Sweet. No, I don't disagree at all. It's just interesting. I never would have came up with that on my own, but it's interesting. Dan Browning sent $20 and just a sticker. Thank you very much for that. Okay, Oil King sent another $10.
Gosh, oil.
He says, everyone please get proper sleep. Treadmill, kettlebell, treadmill, kettlebell, treadmill, kettlebell, RFH. What is your favorite book to read?
What does he mean to read? Like I know you know what I mean. Like you mean like what's
as opposed to like sit on, or I don't know.
No, but like that makes it sound like there's like a book I'm like regularly reading all the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, wouldn't you just say what's your favorite book? Like, I don't know. Sorry, the phrasing tripped me up. The Bible.
Are you serious?
Good girl.
I actually do really enjoy the Bible. But I grew up Episcopalian / Mormon. I don't know if it's my quote favorite book, but it's a great book. Like the stories in it, I've been reading it since I was a kid. So
do you consider yourself a Christian? Because I never would have guessed that.
I do, yes. I talk about it sometimes.
Okay, cool. Respect. Yeah, totally unexpected. No offense.
Well, I mean, honestly, that's the book that fits that description best, because that's a book you do just kind of pick up at random and read random parts, and you go back to, right? So actually, the way that's phrased, it really does make me think of the Bible.
Okay, Winston Fujimori sent $3 on Odyssey. He says, I have a fishing and hunting license, but I have done neither because when I got them, the people that I was going to go fishing with died. Anna, can you please take me fishing so I don't look like an idiot?
Absolutely. I'm sorry to hear that. My goodness.
And then Winston sent another $5. He said, actually, this is probably an older one, but he said, glad to see Anna Slatz on a progress report stream at Slatzism. Is that, how do you say it? Slatzism is one of the best Zitter accounts. I'd love to see a progress report stream with both her and Josh Moon. Josh actually first exposed me to her Twitter account, and I immediately gave it a follow.
Thank you. That's really, really nice of you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, Josh is really another one who has been constantly supporting Redux and shouting out Redux on his Mad at the Internet streams and stuff. And I really appreciate. The other day, I actually had to send him, just side note, somebody sent me a really unhinged DM that was like just totally schizophrenic ramblings of somebody who was accusing me of being like his secret girlfriend or something like that, and making some pretty wild claims and accusations. And I actually had to send him those screenshots because I was like, hey, just in case you need to be aware of this person who's sending me really unhinged messages, indicting you and some stuff, I feel like you should be aware in case you have to call the police. And he was really, really nice about it and sort of explained the situation. But yeah, he seems like a nice guy. I haven't interacted with him all that much, but he seems like a nice dude.
I like Josh. RFH, I looked at glanced over the clock and I saw we're at 3 o'clock now. We've got like maybe 5 more minutes, but if you have to go, that's...
No, I am good. My thing actually got pushed back a little, so I'm okay.
Okay. Yeah, we just got a couple more chats to go through here. Destiny sells, are we going to make it? That was $5 from Appalachia Invicta. Yeah, I don't... do you guys have any predictions on the outcome of his lawsuit at all? Or... Personally,
I think he's gonna lose.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in his position.
If there's evidence, he's gonna lose.
Yeah. Oh, what a shame. Okay, and let's see. I think there's just a couple more that came in on Power Chat here, and then we're done. But really, lots of super chats. Thank you, everybody, for the support. Really appreciate it. Okay, so we got Cat Respecter says $5. He says would. Thank you. We were all on the edge of our seats to know.
He was talking about you, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Cat Respecter. Peixoto sent $3. Fish lives matter. Thank you, and a heart.
They do matter.
So true. So true, King.
Daily Mind Virus sent $3. He says, I disagree. These women are out here rot maxing and going full goblin mode and then crying about unrealistic dimensions in video games instead of getting their ass in the gym.
Wow.
So
I think men are balding and like bad, and then they want to talk about how your elbows are too pointy. So
I think
there's
honestly,
just two sides.
I will say something about this because I actually had this conversation the other day with someone who is actually like, she is a gamer versus me, and we were having this whole conversation because she's not for all of the DEI in video games and all that. She was trying to like work through it, and I think it ultimately comes down to how men and women relate to different things. Like a man will see like a really strong, muscular video game character, and he'll either become inspired by it or he'll literally believe that that's him. Like the Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, they do.
Literally, you're there with your gut spilling out, but Norwood 5, and you're gonna look at like this big, strong barbarian guy in a video game and be like,
that's
he
me.
is literally me. But women will actually look at and try to relate to the character directly and be like, well, I feel bad because I don't look like her. And in negative or toxic situations, it will then be, I then believe that she should not exist, basically. Or this character should not be allowed to look like that because I cannot physically look like that, rather than just sort of being like, she's cool, or she is literally me, like men would do with Ryan Gosling. I feel like it's just a difference in how we relate to media. It's just a difference in psychology, I guess.
You're right.
I think it also has to do.
That's why we
just...
got to get women out of gaming. That's the only solution. No more women gaming.
I think a big part of it's just that, like, I mean, women are more identified by how they look, and like their value is more tied up in that socially. So,
and women exist in reality more.
Yeah. Yes.
Men are able to relate to fantasy more, and I do have a working theory that I'm sort of like going through, but I believe men are more capable of relating to fantasy because they don't need to exist in reality as much as women do. Women have to. If we're out there fucking daydreaming, we're gonna get killed. We're gonna get attacked and killed, or a child is going to get attacked and killed. We need to be firmly grounded in reality. Men can be off out there in the fantasy lands because you can defend yourself in the event someone is attacking you while you're daydreaming. And I feel like that, I feel like that's my rolling theory on it, is I feel like men can relate to non-reality more, or they live in non-reality more because they don't really have to live in reality.
That's
where
really
women
interesting.
actually do.
Is there anything to like back that up, or is that just like a working theory? Like the idea that women like daydream.
It came to me in a dream.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Anna, because I also just had like a tweet, like I think yesterday. I was like, it's so interesting how like men often have this very like cartoonish view of themselves, and it's like not really aligned with like reality at all. And like you said, like they see like the Ryan Gosling guy and like, ooh, that's me.
It's literally me. He's me. Yeah.
They do engage in fantasy more.
Yeah, I just believe that ultimately, and no, I don't have anything at this present time to actually back it up, because this is just something that I've been working through while I was talking with my friend about. She was making the same sort of comments about video games and how video game characters look, and how she wants to see more attractive people in video games because she enjoys indulging in that fantasy. And it ended up her and I talking about just sort of how men and women relate to fantasy differently. And that is ultimately my initial thoughts on it, is I feel like women don't live in fantasy as much and can't relate to fantasy as much because we cannot. We need to actually exist in reality, because everything that we have and the ability for us to exist full stop, or to protect ourselves, is within this realistic plane. Men can actually dissociate from reality, and they can exist in a totally different mental world or mental state, because they don't really need to exist in reality as much, because it matters less to them for their survival, I guess. And that's my working theory, and I will get a grant from the government for many millions of dollars to expose this.
Get this lady some USAID money. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not saying I'm convinced. I'm not sure I am convinced, but it's an interesting thing. We do need more research in this. Yeah. Okay, guys, that's the show. Man, what a blast. I had so much fun. I'm so glad I invited you guys. You never know what you're going to get with these when you mix up these people, but I had a lot of fun. Before we go, I'll let you guys do some plugs if you like. Of course, as always, I put links to their Twitter accounts and that in the description on the videos, but is there anything else, any upcoming projects or anything you want to tell people to be on the lookout for?
I just have my Substack, and besides my Twitter, that's it.
I linked your Substack and your Twitter, and then for Anna, I put Redux, because I don't know what else to put, but the Twitter.
Yeah, there's another project coming on the horizon. I can't really talk about it now. It's going to be very soon, and it's going to be very, very big, and I'm super excited about it. So I guess just watch my Twitter for more stuff coming out on that, because that's going to be what it is. And the only other thing that I will plug is call your mom. Tell her you love her. Be a good person. Be a decent person. and go out there and and don't be racist towards Indians.
I second that. Call your mom.
Awesome. All right. Good times. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks again to my guests. Thanks to everybody sending the super chats.
Thank you.
And everybody have a great day. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.